if you're not healed within, when you show up without realizing in a way that doesn't best represent you.
You know, I didn't want a company or a culture that was going to interfere with what I've built up over the years.
The only way to mom is to stay in my faith, but the only way to stay in my faith is to understand that the system has to exist. So I'm routine crazy.
Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen.
Hello, Working Mommy, and welcome back to the second episode of The Working Mom.
Yep.
It's Rea and I again. Hi, Rea.
Hey, Mo. How's it doing?
It's good. We're good. We're in our second installment episode, and today's topic is a very different one. I'd call it my favorite, because the other F of the double F that we're sharing is fashion. So we're here to chat about faith and fashion. And I think we call it faith and fashion because we believe that, and I speak for us as a collective, that without the cemented part of who you are internally, which is brought about by your faith, I think the fashion part of it isn't necessarily going to translate.
Yeah.
You wear yourself in your clothes.
Yeah.
Right? And this also speaks to the foundation of the why for the second episode. And the why is, how do we as mommies show up?
Show up.
What's our show up game? And our show up game is so, it's loaded. I'd call it loaded, guys, because by loaded I mean it's got variants and variations and levels and different things that enable how we can then actually stand.
Yeah.
As
how
women.
you actually represent yourself,
How you
right?
represent yourself.
And
right?
as you said, the show up game.
The show up game.
So
So, me being a lover of fashion, you being the most exquisite human being I've ever met, you are so, you know when someone is, dainty, mara fashionable. Like you can tell, and I always say when you're wearing an outfit, it mustn't look like you thought about it a lot. Like it must just look like you quickly slipped it on.
I just slipped it on.
You slipped it on
I'm
quickly.
popping out quickly.
You're popping out quickly, right? And the show up game for the mom is quite close to our hearts because navigating motherhood and still showing up in all of the areas of your life, specifically in the how you look, it's a game changer.
Yeah.
It's a game changer. And it enables you to also unlock many other parts of what's meant to be for yourself, right? And for everyone else around you. So as a principle, we believe as the working mommies that, you know, faith starts it all. And I say faith because we've previously spoken that we both are believers.
Yeah.
But I actually want us to share about the foundations of faith and the how around it and how I've enjoyed experiencing your version of events. So Rea will tell you that there's prayer time. There's prayer time, and we maneuver prayer, and we maneuver how we navigate our internal systems differently. And mine is a ritual that's quite different. So my faith, because of navigating two little ones, I have to move away from the house. So the first thing I do when I wake up is I literally jump into my, training gear and I leave the house.
And you leave,
I remember with my second child, I started leaving Zoe when she was 4 months old. I had a system with daddy where I was like, I'm going to feed at 3:45. 4:30 in the morning, I'm getting into my gym wear so that at 5 o'clock I can be at the gym. And I didn't do much at the gym. I went to the gym to cry and pray.
That was your space. That was your sanctuary, right? And your altar.
And my altar.
In a way.
Yeah. And some of the stuff that I do in my capacity from a fitness perspective is I help moms heal their cores. And healing a core for me goes deeper than the outside. So we would look at it from a vanity level as, I have a flat stomach, I have abs. My friends joke about You've got a flat stomach, you don't need to worry about dessert. And I'm like, no, I actually am healing the inside
of you, yeah.
The inside of
Because
me.
I mean, it does take a while, especially after giving birth, right? Rebuilding those muscles and just feeling like you're yourself again and being you pre-birth and pre-kids. It's
Pre housemate.
it's a journey.
Pre-mjolo.
It's a journey,
Yeah.
and I feel like it's not spoken about enough because people do it at surface level. And when you start going deeper into it and just obviously remove the vanity part of it and go to the core of it, excuse the pun, it's healing.
It's healing.
It's healing, and you end up just doing it for more than just the outward appearance, the physical appearance, the niceness of it.
Yeah.
It's the healing part of it that takes place and takes you on a journey of escape where you find yourself. And yeah, I think it's just, it's an amazing space to be within and find yourself.
Yeah.
And yeah.
When you speak to healing, I always try to use healing as a reference point. So if I'm engaging someone and I either feel almost intimidated or I shy away from engaging that person or I start making negative comments or feeling negatively towards that person, I go back to the core of, but what's wrong with me?
With you.
Right? And if you think about it without being, I mean, guys, we're not qualified psychologists. We're just sharing our experiences, right? When you take it back to, if you're not healed within, when you show up without realizing in a way that doesn't best represent you.
Yeah. It's like you're carrying a dark cloud.
You are, right? And even in your reactions, your interactions, your how you move your body language, your every little touch point of your existence, it literally takes you back to the core. It becomes tainted because the core wasn't necessarily healed. And that's why when we speak to the show up game for us as a unit, as the working mom, the combo of faith and fashion is important. Yeah. Because go back.
It goes back to the foundations of it, right? What is faith? And I think with that, when we say what is faith, I think it would be very crucial for us to reference scripture.
Yeah.
It's faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And it goes back to the core part and healing. What are you hoping for that you aren't seeing right now? Right? What are you hoping for that you aren't seeing right now at this moment? And I think my mom always says to me, I've got this kind of crazy faith where you almost look like wahlanya.
Yeah.
Because you're like, it will happen.
It will happen.
Whether or not you think it will or not, I believe that it will happen. And I think when you get into that mindset as well of just strategically positioning yourself within your faith and saying it will happen. It might not be according to my timing, but it will happen. And I think you almost look delusional to some people for what you believe is going to take place. Yeah. And I think
unseen.
It's unheard of. And I think that needs to drive you even more. So that is the basis of it. That is the foundations of it. And then it informs, as you said, how you show up.
And it being unheard of, right? With us navigating the space that we navigate, where you're trying to find the balance within having to wear the many hats that you wear.
Yeah.
At some point in this past month, I was just like, I'm not available. Today I'm not mom, I'm not wife, I'm not doing anything. I'm not being it's unheard of for us to be able to show up. And I guess the foundation is critical. The faith is critical.
It's critical to that, yeah.
Yeah, like the system that you build is the reason for you being able to actually show up. And what we miss, especially as working mothers, is keeping to that system. And that system requires many a thing. So your discipline, your consistency, your
commitment.
Your commitment. You're doing it even when you don't want to.
Or even when your mood has changed, when you made that commitment, right? Because we commit to so much when we're happy and jolly and in a vibey mood. But as soon as that is gone and that environment that creates it, that commitment is gone, how do you then carry it through?
Sure.
And keep to your word? Because I think a lot of
I think you're coming for me. Personally, I feel like you're coming for me. You waited for us to come here. Yeah.
Okay. But I think it informs a lot, right? Do what you say you're gonna do, and like for me, it shows your character. Not necessarily to say if you don't do what you said you're gonna do, you're a whack person, but as well, it just also kind of builds that consistency, as you said, and it builds habits.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's helping you show up as you and the best you can be.
Sure.
And how you obviously then show up to other people and how they receive you, especially your little one, because they need a mom.
They need a mom.
That's there.
Sure.
And wants to be there.
And I find that when you go away to go be you, you mom better.
Your mom better, yeah.
You mom better. And not everybody will be in a place of privilege. And I call it a place of privilege because I'm very conscious of the reality that in the space that we exist in the economy that we live in, it's not necessarily always simple to have all of those, measures in place where you're able to actually allow yourself to have the mom time.
Yeah.
Some moms don't.
Yeah.
But when working towards being conscious about building the system, one of the things that I soon learned as soon as I had my first child was the only way to mom is to stay in my faith, but the only way to stay in my faith is to understand that the system has to exist. So I'm routine crazy. But routine evolves and morphs over time to accommodate other things,
you
other
need to
people.
shape it and mold it, right? Based on where you are at that point in your life. Because also understand, especially when you're changing jobs, because you are, the podcast is the working mom. When you're changing jobs, how then do you manage those new relationships to still allow you to have the time to the things that you previously did, right? And exist in those spaces so that you don't fall into a trap of not being able to maintain that system that you created, right? So I think with that as well, it's very important to be mindful of the career that you're in, and obviously when you're changing the jobs, which company you're going to, and is it going to allow?
Is it going to afford you
Is it
that?
going to afford you that? And obviously we're not speaking out of privilege, but just like the basics of how you can maintain that system that you've created.
Sure, you raised something that's so... It's a bit of a touchy one for me because in me having to navigate the workspace, right? I was looking for the workplace to decide that it's allowed for me to still go be mom, to still maintain my system. And I soon realized that, no, I'm handing over what's meant to be my job to the company.
You're basically giving them your power.
I'm giving them my power, right? But if I'm able to put in place systems that allow for me to be able to run a day, run a life, where I'm saying there are pockets of me that exist that I need to tick, 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 tick to be able to show up how I need to show up in my career, then that doesn't necessarily mean the power is with me, but it's like, how do I collaboratively create where I'm still mom and I'm still working.
Yeah. And I mean, I think I recently changed agencies, right? And I was very strategic
In the decision.
in the decision making.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to end up in a place where
Yeah.
I still can't then exist in my
Yeah.
role as a mom
Yeah.
and in my role as Rea.
Yeah.
The me time.
Yeah.
And knowing that this is the time that I use to be me. This
Yeah.
is the time that I use to be mom.
To be mom.
You know, I didn't want a company or a culture that was going to interfere with what I've built up over the years, because it's been what, 4.5 years of building that
Yeah.
and having that flexibility
Yeah.
within the working space to
so
still
that you're able to still show up.
yeah, to still show up.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that the consciousness. So I always speak to the fact that you need to be at a certain level of awareness and consciousness to be able to determine that a lot of what happens to us is in our power.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of what enables the system that I have put in place personally in my life is guarded and guided by the faith.
Yeah.
It's gone as far as me actually using terms like Holy Spirit said.
Spirit said.
Holy Spirit said,
Yeah.
don't respond to that email. Wait 10 minutes. Take a breather and
Calm
come
down.
back. Calm down. Holy Spirit said, but be honest about who you are. Even
Don't hide it.
Don't hide it.
Yeah.
Don't hide it. This is who I am. I jokingly always say, like I've gotten to a point where if I'm sitting doing nothing but just mom, work, gym, I itch. Now I'm always looking for like, what is it that's a purpose place where I can actually apply myself, where I can actually grow, né? And it's something that is enabled by that faith. It's enabled by that system. So even in how I show up, a lot of it is from that place.
That place, yeah.
So recently I decided I actually don't like tight-fitting clothes.
I've never liked them. You know, I'm a loose flow.
You're a loose
girl.
flow. You're like the water. But remember, I've always been a small framed girly. So conditioned to believe everything must be tight fitting so that we can see your silhouette.
Yeah.
Right. But in the foundations of sitting and thinking and talking to who I am, I realized a lot more flow needs to happen in me. But there's also the other side where I'm like, how I show up determines my destination. So for me, destination-wise, I've always had the thing that, we're here in South Africa. But but there's an itch, man. There's something, right? And the other day, somebody said to me, why are you so conscious of your fitness and your, healthy eating? And I'm like, no, I'm going to live in the UK. And I jokingly said that. I was like, I keep saying, I want to live in the UK because my son is going to play soccer. And when he plays football and I'm with other moms,
I need to
I want to look a certain way, right? And without it being even a weight conversation, it's more how do I comfortably show up
as you,
as me?
Yeah, I think it's so interesting that you mentioned the smaller frame thing, because when I had like a smaller frame, it was always people asking me, why don't you wear tight clothing?
Oh, so you've always worn...
And I was always just like, I feel comfortable in the loose clothing where I can just be, because that was me.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you try out the fast fashion trends and
fast fashion is coming for us, guys.
It wouldn't work.
Right now, burgundy.
It wouldn't work for me, right?
Burgundy is throttling us.
It honestly wouldn't work for me. I would look at myself in the mirror and I'd be like, nah. Sure. And it would always, for me, it was always about just being covered and feeling comfortable and feeling like me.
Yeah.
Because every time I would chase that,
it didn't work
out for me.
It didn't work out.
And even now, after having the child, obviously body changes and I had to now readapt my style, but in obviously this new frame. But because, fortunately, I've always liked the loose fit clothing,
It naturally
just transcended into this part and this phase of my life. And I've always said, you said I look dainty. My friends call me Obama.
I love that.
Because they're always like, you're so presidential. And
you really are.
It's just always been me. Like, I've really never felt comfortable in the trendy side of things, so to speak. It looks good on other people, and that's why I've tried to imitate it. But unfortunately,
everybody has their thing.
Yeah, it didn't work.
Everybody has their thing. And I think the show up is in what's the best version of you that you want to present.
Exactly.
But you can't present the best version of you that you don't know.
If you're imitating.
Who are you?
Yeah.
Crack you.
Exactly.
That's what I always say. Like,
what's your blueprint?
What's your blueprint? Right? And it even goes as far as from the little detail. And the system that I've put in place is around the detail is in the belief where I'm internally now making sure I'm correcting things, moving it to am I moving? Because by moving, it helps me with the mental wellness, right? Which is quite a big topic, in and around us in society. But it also helps me to navigate how I engage with people. That's hence the moving. Then from the moving, I was like, okay, so I've ticked I'm able to dabble in the faith. Then I dabble in the fitness. Okay, so and then now I'm like, okay, so sharp, I'm fit. I'm in the body size that I want. But how does that look? How do I represent myself?
How do you package it?
How am I packaging it? And in the packaging, over the past, I think, year or so, I had to learn, okay, so my favorite way of showing up is this. But after you've shown up in, like you say, you like the flowy side of life. But flow translates differently in different occasions. In different contexts. And I think that's where, as moms, we get it wrong.
We struggle,
Hi, guys.
We struggle a
We
bit.
need to do better.
We struggle.
I'm not judging. I'm saying there's merit in exploring. How do I then take the different, contexts and how do I translate that for myself? In the capacity of this is how I'm showing up as me. And some of the conversations I've had with people close to me are that, yes, I dress well for the office. But when I have to go to a dinner, how do I look? Yeah. Listen, I'm the first to admit. The other day, I actually was looking through my closet. I'm like, I don't have an LBD.
You see, I think with me, I'm the opposite, right? Because I buy so much, and I don't even know why I'm buying something. And then it ends up coming in handy. When I have a particular occasion. And I think one thing I've learned from you is that I don't necessarily need so much. Right? You said to me, you just need key items.
You need key items.
You don't need everything. And I'm starting to obviously unlearn that habit of always purchasing. I mean, it's worked in the past where I then, should an occasion come up, I've got something. But also I've battled with thoughts of maybe I should also go buy something. I've got something, but
let me go add.
We
were on the phone the other day.
And
I was like, we have a family event. Should I buy a dress?
And I told you.
And I was walking through H&M. You had to talk me for 30 minutes. You talked me through. You don't need another dress.
Because I mean, you've gotten me to that space of not having to purchase every time. And I like, what are you doing? Why are you going back on what you've taught me to do? So I think obviously it comes with learning and unlearning. And adapting. But there's merit in existing in both worlds. So you would purchase for occasions. I would put in place a capsule. I'm a capsule girly. You're a capsule, exactly.
And I will have 2 jeans, 2 black pants, a pair of camel pants, a white shirt, striped shirt. That's how I'm built. And this is because, so from a fashion perspective, it is good looking one, but from the mom side, what the dynamic that people don't realize I'm trying to play is time.
The
With my-
thought process
the
with
thought pro-
outfits, especially in the mornings.
It takes me 10 minutes to get dressed.
Which is why you told me I need specific
You need
items.
specific items.
And I didn't before. It was just a lot of everything. And to another person, it's like, but why
But
are you
you have-
struggling?
yeah,
You've got
you've got
everything.
everything.
But putting it together, especially in the mornings, now that
Yeah.
I've had to go back to the office, it was a mission for
Mission,
me.
yeah.
Because I've been working from home for like the last 4 years. So going back to the office was like,
Okay, what do
what
I
am
wear
I
now?
wearing? And how do I look good? And how do
Yeah.
I show up in my capacity as Rea?
Yeah. But was the transition not easier? I think the transition is simple for you because you've done the core work we spoke about. So when you make a decision, you're not doubting self.
Yeah.
You're self-regulated, if that makes any sense.
I'd like to think I am.
Yeah.
I'd like to think I am, but at times it does pose certain challenges because you do second guess yourself. And there'll always be that thing of don't second guess. There's a reason and a purpose as to why your style is the way that it is.
It is.
And don't chase what's not yours because you're not then going to show up. You're going to be filtered out, basically.
Yeah, you're not you.
You're not you.
You're not you. Don't chase what's not
Yeah,
you.
you'll be filtered out. You'll be drowned out by the noise.
The noise,
Yeah.
right? And you and I, as a pair, as the working moms, the working moms, there's subtlety in how we complement one another, but still stand out as individuals.
As individuals, yeah. And I think what I love about you is that you're not afraid to let someone else take the lead when necessary.
Yeah.
And obviously vice versa as
Yeah.
well. And that's what makes us and us work. Because we give each other that space and that platform and the room to be you and shine and go forth and not feel some type of way about it. So
Yeah.
absolutely love that.
The balance that you speak to about us, I want to cite an example. So guys,
No, I know what you're going to say.
in the preparation of obviously bringing the working mom to life in how we were trying to be like, but how do we portray ourselves without putting on a facade, without feeling like we are duplicating or we're in a space that's oversaturated. We obviously had to have conversations about, okay, so how, styling wise, how are we going to navigate that? And for instance, today's episode, we were on the phone, okay, what are the colors? Literally, it was as simple as, what are the colors? Okay, so maybe let's go with
A nude.
a nude.
Yeah.
And it was as simple as that.
Yeah.
And each person's interpretation
Of the nude.
the nude. And I guess that's where, if you're really, really sitting and deeply thinking about who you are as an individual, it's easy to crack your version of a theme or a decision around
capsule.
a capsule,
capsule.
because you know how to better kind of voice yourself through the clothes.
Correct.
But the one thing I want to thank you for is, which you don't know you taught me. I'm simple. I don't like embellishing. You're the embellished girl.
Really?
Yeah, earrings.
Really? I feel like I'm so plain.
No,
Like, I'm so simple. I'm a simple girl.
when I say the only ring I've ever worn is the one
Given to
is the one given to me. I was like, okay, so I have to wear it every day.
Yeah.
It's on my finger, so I
Yeah.
must wear it every day.
Yeah.
You're able to be like, okay, so maybe 3 rings this side will then, balance, and then like a bangle.
Really?
But a bangle.
I feel like I'm so simple, so plain. So
No. there's definitely a lot that I've learned from you in how I show up with regards to like the embellishing
Yeah.
of the side of life, and it's interesting to be able to interpret it in a way that's my own, right?
It's comfortable for you.
That's comfortable for me.
Yeah.
But speaking of comfort, are we always going to be comfortable fashion wise? Are you not going to push yourself?
Push yourself. Well, you've already pushed me to do this, so I might just take a risk in fashion.
And in fashion,
but still represent me.
Yeah.
Yeah, something that still represents me and something that I'd still feel comfortable in. And I mean, going back to you saying I taught you the embellishment part of things.
Yeah.
I think when I speak to you, you always kind of remind me of staying true to who I am and not changing, and chasing the fast trends. So it's something very crucial and something that I take to heart that you've always just said, remember.
Remember.
Yeah, remember.
And you'll find that even with people outside of you that are not necessarily close to you, they'll be like, that's a very rare thing.
Yeah.
You almost develop a signature.
Yeah.
I remember this year on my birthday, my colleagues were like, we're wearing, they like calling me Modie. We're wearing the Modie color.
The Modie color.
We're wearing the Modie color.
The tans.
And everybody showed up in some form of a nude, a tan, a cream.
You see.
A variation
Your
of that.
brand.
My brand, because I've established that, okay, so this is what I enjoy wearing and this is what I'm comfortable in. I laughed the other day, one of my EXCO members was like, yo, is that the only color you see in the shop?
Because it does sometimes come across as that way, right?
Yeah.
That you're like programmed to only see that and only find certain styles in that. Yeah.
But in that moment, something very personal where I walked away and I was like, thank you, God, happened to me. Old me would have had to substantiate why.
Why?
I would have had to say...
You don't find the need to...
I don't.
...defend yourself anymore.
So I said, I actually have noticed that it's the only color they sell. I said, blame it on the shop.
Gave them a...
I threw it back to the shop. I was like, it's the only color they sell in the store.
Yeah.
But it was almost a full circle moment because I had to go back and do the work and understand the core of who I am.
Of you.
To be able to show up confidently
Yeah.
in the process of selecting the clothing, putting it together, and being able to wear it without flinching and without shaking should there be an opinion, and being confident.
Because when you show up, you need to show up confidently. You can't be flimsy or continue hiding.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But there's method to that, which I don't think, I don't think we share the knowledge. I don't think we exchange notes enough. There are, I personally watch a lot of, content around, okay, so how to wear, what's happening autumn, winter 25, those kind of things, because I'm tuned in that way, in that space. But for someone who isn't necessarily naturally gravitating towards that kind of content, you almost, the foundations are, yes, the faith, but the other thing that we need to put in people's radar is, yes, figure yourself out, but also just be natural in the understanding where you're going and how you need to show up in the way you're going.
Yeah.
So the other day I was trying to get dressed for work and I wore a trench, it's like a trench coat that my father gifted me.
Yeah.
So he had initially bought it for my mom when he was traveling, but my mom is curvaceous, so it didn't work out. So I got to inherit it. And when I wore it, I was like, it's giving Woolies trip.
Oh gosh.
So I'm able to, it was giving, I'm going to the store and I'm going to get a couple of things. And
it had a story. It had a story. Yeah.
But the story was in that space, the appropriateness of it in the office, it didn't tick the box.
Yeah.
So the method in the madness is there's a way of deciding on this
which
works,
item for which
environment. That's your base.
Yeah.
That's your base, because...
And I think a lot of us struggle with that, right? Before getting it right. you'd wear some like a party outfit at the office, for example.
Yeah.
And I think as much as you can say, I'm showing up as
me.
boldly and as
Yeah.
confidently as me, there are certain items where I feel
Yeah.
need certain spaces.
Yeah.
And we need to just go back to the basics with that. Just an opinion.
Just an opinion.
It's not a fact. It's just an opinion.
It's just and it's a fair one because it is a whole process around understanding. Oh, okay, so this works specifically for me, personally for me. When I'm in my soccer mom mode, I would be in ripped jeans and a white T-shirt. For another mom, it'll be a two-piece tracksuit. For another mom, it's a plain, non-branded, set. Yeah. So it's just about finding and establishing those categories for yourself as an individual, and everything then will flow.
It will fall into place.
It will fall into place. But it's quite essential that we share that the reality is you need to unlock and be conscious of it. You can't work on something that you're not aware of.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And we are so guilty as moms of we use the little ones as a crutch.
Guilty.
Why do you look like you caught out?
Guilty.
We use them as a crutch. No, I don't have time. Kids. Now you're fixing yourself. No, hey, the little. No.
Shame. I think I used to do that earlier days until I realized that no, you need to have compartments, right? And know what needs to be done at a certain point in time, so that you're not all frantic all the time.
Sure.
Because then that prevents you from showing up.
Sure. Time management 101. Time planning and understanding of the different buckets that exist for how you need to show up.
Which is why we need to obviously navigate the dynamic roles that we exist in.
Yes.
And within that space, obviously, then you are able to maneuver better with understanding and obviously with that system you mentioned earlier.
Pela, Rona, we carry the many hats, and you remind me of when we went to Chris Brown. I was adamant I'm not buying anything. And then I stood in front of the mirror. I wore, because my go-to, so the foundations of me, guys, because I'm a fitness girly, leggings. I've had to learn that gym tights are they're not an outfit. No, they're not an outfit.
Athleisure.
Athleisure. So I existed in athleisure for the longest time of my life. And to be able to actually work my way to a point where I understand the different buckets that I need to exist in my show-up game has helped me a lot.
Yeah.
So we were going to the concert, and the housemate said to me, you can't. I need you to understand that you're now in wife mode, and it's just the two of us, and you're not mommy.
We're going on a date.
We're
dating each other.
We are dating now, right? And he said, and I put on leggings, and I put on like a tight top. It was nicely silhouetted, but he was like,
it's not happening.
Yeah, it's not giving
wife.
It's not giving hot wife. And there's pressure. Yeah. There's hot wife pressure, and everybody has their version of hot wife.
Yeah.
But I think there's also merit in understanding that the people around you and their feedback and their contribution to how you look matters. It matters, because had he not engaged me like that at that point, I don't think when I look back at the experience and the images that I see now, I would have been able to show up like that.
But it's also how you received, right? Because it's important how you receive it, and that goes back to how it's being delivered. Because had he delivered it in a different manner, you wouldn't have received it as well as you did. And whether you like it or not.
This is the wife.
So I think the delivery and how you received it played a very crucial role in that.
So for me, the consciousness. So when you say the delivery and the receiving of it still takes me back to my self-awareness, my ability to be like, okay, in this space, I'm being guided and corrected with love.
With love, exactly.
But if I'm not going back to the principle of, okay, am I steady in who I am to be able enough to take that,
yeah.
then I can't. I'm not going to evolve.
Yeah.
If I think about the people that knew me probably 5 years ago, when they look at me now, they're probably like, what happened to Miss Nike? And Miss Nike, I assure you guys, she's still there.
She's there, just in a different space.
She's in a different,
right?
yeah.
Which is the environment
we're talking about.
Exactly.
So that's when you start understanding,
With me, it was always informed by my mom.
What an elegant woman.
She's
so elegant.
And you thinking, I look great. And then, how old are
she's like,
are you representing me looking like that? And at times it would sting.
Yeah.
Right? It would sting because you're thinking, I look amazing.
Yeah.
And then you go back and you take it in. You're like, okay, let me, you're right, processing it. Let me change and see
what will happen.
Yeah,
and then
immediately you feel
better.
You even like walking differently.
Where's the king?
And then, but because pride, you don't say it to the person who corrected you. You just walk out. You're like,
huh.
I'm out.
I've done it.
You look nice now, and you're just like, but then you come back and you're like, you were right.
Sure.
So it was done in love.
Yeah.
But obviously because you didn't receive it well.
Yeah.
You were like, me.
What's also quite something that we shy away from is the reality that we've vilified the need to show up for ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we are using the little ones as the price that we've had to pay.
We've paid, right?
Yeah. And it affects so many aspects of your existence outside of being a mom. More so, climbing the corporate ladder. More so, engaging in rooms where I believe, we've tables have been set for us before we even get there.
Before we get there, right? You've been ushered in.
You've been ushered in.
Yeah.
But are you ready to sit at the table?
To sit at the table.
So you're asking for all of these things. We list. Pela,
until you're challenged.
Yeah. Okay, sharp.
And it's always packaged in a way that you don't want, right? It's always packaged in a trials and tribulations type of way.
Yeah.
Right. And so many of us then tend to shy away from it and be like, this is not necessarily what I want.
Yeah.
Whereas it's just been packaged quite differently to what you were expecting.
Yeah.
Or had pictured.
Yeah. I really believe there's merit in us looking more to the accountability side of things as individuals, as moms.
Yeah.
Holding ourselves accountable. And saying, but this area of my life, am I attending to it?
Yeah.
Am I planning for it? Is it at a conscious level where I'm like, okay, so this is it's part of the list. I'm gonna do it. I keep people around me where you'll get someone who's like, hair, that hair, nails. Guys, a lesson I've learned from Rea. So Rea,
no man,
Rea says,
come on.
Schedule your nail appointment. Do not have hair and you're
waxing.
I haven't reached that level, but something as simple as implementing a system of scheduling your appointments.
Yeah.
Then you know that you're not frazzled. Come time when you have to be in a room and you're conducting and you're running, conversation.
You're showing up as your best self.
You're like,
I'm not crusty.
And you're not then crutching using
the child.
That's just one of those things where you're like, okay, so it's a system I can implement. It's something that can actually assist
me. Yeah.
So it's in the planning. It's in the understanding the context. It's in the how do I then show up as me in those spaces, right? And taking accountability for all of the things that you said you were going to be.
Yeah. And committing.
And committing. I called a friend of mine the other day and I'm like, I remember praying about being a specific type of woman. I also spoke to you about it.
Always.
Because if Rea goes more than 2 days without talking to me, I'm like...
I don't think we ever have. It's always, if 3 o'clock hits and I haven't received a text. You're always like, are you okay?
Are you okay?
Yeah.
And in the chat, we were talking about how, you ask for these things. It's almost like, and I use the analogy, stepping into your own shoes. So I think I'm urging, we are urging moms to, like, there's shoes that exist for you.
For you. You need to fill them. No one else is going to do it for you.
Fill them.
Yeah. You need to show up for yourself at the end of the day. And that is what the show up game
is about. And
and that's it.
and that's it from us. From a second episode perspective, we really enjoyed spending time together and exploring something that can be viewed as very vain and very, not so important.
Not important, yeah.
But there's levels to building self. There's levels to building mom, and it's a critical part of it.
It's a critical part of it, of the journey and becoming. And I feel like building off of what you said, right? The lessons, obviously, that we've learned over time have assisted us in navigating the role. So hopefully it will assist you guys too. And
and so with this being our second episode, we are looking forward to sharing more and more about the journey that we are on as moms. And we do urge you to tell a friend, tell a mom, tell an aunt who wants to be a mom, to like, subscribe, follow us. We are on Instagram, we are on LinkedIn, and Spotify. Yes. And that's it for today.
Thank you.
Thank you.